And it's an interesting question because, when I meet people for the first time, usually you say, hello, my name is so-and-so, and they'll say, hello, nice to meet you. And then you start asking each other about what they do for work. And when I tell people what I do for a living, they don't get it. It's one of those things they'll say, what? What does that mean? If I say that I'm in career development or I help students make decisions, they don't get that because a lot of people don't understand that there are processes that we follow to make choices about what careers. They just think it happens. And to have somebody in a position to help you make that decision is even crazy for them. But what I also explain is that what I do is I'm in educational counseling, which basically means that as you're going through your college education, that I can help you make some decisions that you otherwise would not have thought to make. I always recognize that if I don't know the answers to something, I've got to ask people. And if I can't ask my parents because they don't know a lot, then I got to find the people that would be able to answer what I need to know. So I sort of developed this curiosity and this ability to say, I need to find out about this. Who do I go to? So I would ask, and in my own way made a lot of mistakes because I was not what would be considered mainstream kid. I didn't do a lot of the things that other children did because my parents, again, not knowing about the culture, never was there a sleepover that I could go to. Never was I, even if I went over to somebody's house for dinner, I'd usually be the first one to have to leave. And it wasn't that my parents did not want to get, but they just didn't know. And by not knowing, it creates sort of, I think, a little bit of fear. It's like, we don't know what, my mom always used to say, I don't know what the customs here are. I don't know what the traditions are here. So, in essence, as I got older, I thought, I don't want somebody that comes after me to have to go through all this, because when it was time for me to go to college, I knew nothing. They wouldn't explain things very clearly to students that didn't know how to ask, or that were not part of the groups that they were familiar with. So, as I kind of waded through everything myself, I remember saying, I don't want other people that will experience education the way that I'm experiencing it to go through what I'm going through. So what can I do? I always liked school, and I didn't really want to be a teacher, but I wanted to be somebody that helped. Long and short, I talked to a counselor one day, and she said, do you know what career counseling is? And I said, no, I have no idea. Do you know what academic counseling? I said, isn't that what you do? She goes, yes, that's what I do. But I said, let me share with you a little bit about what career and academic counselors do. So she told me a little bit about how you are working in an educational institution, you help students, and you help them move forward. So what I did that entire summer, I went and I spoke to several people that were working in different educational institutions, and I started to find out, oh, I don't want to be completely teaching, I want to be able to help people. Because of my own experiences, I knew that I needed to learn more about human behavior. So I took psychology, and that's when I started my career as a psych major, continued. When it was time for me to finish my psych, I thought, I want more. Shall I go more psychology, or shall I go more what would be considered education? They happen to have a major at San Francisco State that is the Department of Education, but counseling falls under that. Took a class and I loved it. Okay, so anybody that wants to do education, as you've heard in the past, you have to have at least a bachelor's degree. And then you go for a credentialing year. I knew that I wanted to work with young adults. That was something that was clear to me from the beginning, because young adults have sort of a different energy and a different understanding of life than, let's say, a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old. When I found out that if I wanted to work in a college environment, which is this level, I recognized that I needed at least a master's degree. So when I got my degree in psychology, that's all it was. When I got my degree in psychology, as many of you now, you're heading towards your bachelor's degree, and you're almost towards transferring. So the anxiety that comes when you think, oh gosh, I'm just got used to this place, and now I have to move on to something else. I tell students, growth is important and it's good for you, and yes, it is scary. But you have to answer questions on your own, because there's not always going to be somebody telling you this is how to do it. So when it was time for me to finish my bachelor's, I decided to do some research, checked out all the graduate programs that had to do with education and psychology. And when I found out that there was this particular program at state, thankfully it was close because I didn't have much money. It wasn't something that I was going to be able to go away to college like some of my friends had been able to do. So when I saw that the program combined both academic, where you could teach, but also counseling, where you can advise and suggest, then I thought that was a great program. So went through that, and then my very first job that I got when I graduated was a small liberal arts college, not too far from here, where there was a lot of international students. So my initial placement was working with a high number of international students that I felt I related to very well, because my parents were international. Although I had been born here, I could relate to the questions and concerns and anxieties that they had. So that's how I started in the career. The person that influenced me, I still keep her very dearly in my mind, is someone that I felt, had it not been for her, I would not be where I am. But then another point that I want you guys to remember is there's several people in your life that will help move you towards the direction, not just one. Just like they say there's only one person in the world for you to marry and to be the soulmate, there's a bunch of them. It's just what happens. Don't go through all of them. The thing is that whoever presents themselves to us at a given point in time. How did I end up working in a college? I want to work with people that are in transition, but I don't want to work with people that are way out there, that are not connected to reality. Students, although crazy that you guys are, you're in transition, you're young, you're energetic, and I love being part of that process. So sometimes I wake up in the morning and say, boy, however it happened, I ended up in a particular area that I really love. I mean, this is over a period of 3 decades, okay? But that's how I ended up. So it wasn't really originally what I had planned to do, because I wanted to help people who didn't understand the system. But I do it in a way that it's in an educational environment. Is when a student of mine ends up going towards something and they do well and they're excited, even before 30 years, when I do get those letters, those are the best times. But when I know or I hear through somebody that the student is actually not only doing well, but is happy and is kind of being seen as someone who's capable in that particular subject or major, love it, just love it. Or when a student comes in and says to me, you know what, I never thought about this, but today or last week I thought about it and what you said made sense. I really like this, thanks. To me, that's worth like a paycheck. It's crazy, I know. But because I bet through it and in the career. When I started to realize that I was happy that it was my career for me, when I started getting the positive feedback from students. And now I've been in it for so long that when I still get letters, I got a letter about a year ago from a student that I had in 1984. They went on to medical school, and now they're like a specialist in rheumatoid arthritis. And they wrote back to me and said, thank you so much, back in 1984. So we're talking how many years ago? 30 years, right? So they're like in their 50s now. Thank you so much for the direction that you gave me, because I realized that this is what I enjoy, and I'm happy that I was able to do what I've been doing all these years. Thinking about how my past, you came to my mind. I wanted you to know this. When I get those little letters, it's like, wow. For me, it's like winning the lottery. Even though maybe once every, couple of years, I know that I've influenced one person, and it just makes me feel good. And that's when I know that I'm in the right field. What I hate about my job is when I have to evaluate students as not doing well or failing. However, the part that for me that is the most challenging is when the student doesn't see at the point that they are in their life that they can turn it a bit, just a bit, and go down a different path. You just kind of have to watch them go down the bad path. There's only so much you can do. That's the worst part. I go home sometimes and I tell my husband, geez, I wish I could do something. He said, did you try everything you could? Much as I could. He said, then they have to learn on their own. And I remember how difficult it was, how frustrating, and how so many times I didn't know what to ask, and I feel like I was the only one sitting there thinking, am I the only one that doesn't get this, or what is this? So what I would do differently if I were to tell students that are where you are, first of all, I tell this to my students all the time in classes, there's no one better than you, and you gotta really truly believe that. It took me a lifetime to get that. If you are not happy with the questions that you ask and how they're answered, go to somebody else and ask the same question. Because not everybody has the answers that we're looking for. And when we don't get them initially, we get discouraged. So I tell students, you don't want to be a pest. You don't want to be a jerk. But if somebody does not answer the question clearly, go to a second source. And thirdly, the other thing that I would do differently is that I wouldn't worry as much as early on as I did about what do I do if I can't find the ultimate career. Because what life does to us is that if you have an idea as to what you want to do and you seriously do put work towards it, it'll come. I know it sounds like those silly bumper stickers, but you can't just sit and say, okay, tomorrow I'm sure the door's going to open and I'm going to be a nurse, or I'm going to be an accountant, or I'm going to be a police officer. You have to work towards everything that you want, but you don't have to get it today. And if I would do anything differently, I graduated from graduate school. I was 23 years old and I had my master's degree. And I had just turned 23, as a matter of fact. And I was so young, I didn't know a lot of stuff. I would take it easier. I would not worry as much, but I would always work forward. I was consumed with having to find something. That's not a good thing to do, because I put a lot of undue stress. Life unravels itself. If there's anything I would do, in other words, it unravels itself and you start to see patterns. I wouldn't do it as fast, and I don't recommend students. 4 years for college is way too fast for your undergraduate. Even if it takes you 5, 6 years, that's better. You mature, you develop more of your confidence. Don't feel you have to have the definitive answer. That's what I would do differently. Usually life slaps you around a bit and then you start to realize it. So it's really interesting. You will come into your own, believe me. I know this will happen with all of you. It's just that now sometimes you feel like you don't have a voice, you don't have a direction, you don't know what you want to do, and life can be really cruddy. But it starts to unfold. You just have to be open to it and patient, really, truly. And to recognize that there's people out there that no matter how much education they have, they're still jerks. There's nothing you can do about it, you know? Jerk is all, equal opportunity. You could be male, female, from any culture, from any race, from any size or shape, and you could still be a jerk.